Hey, I'm Billy, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel, Budget Friendly Bliss, where I show you how I create a beautiful and fulfilling life with little spending. This week's menu plan is from a small food pantry haul. At first glance, this did not seem like enough food to feed me and my 3 kiddos aged 14, 11, and 9, but I wanted to challenge myself to use only these items this week. Let me say that this is not sustainable for long term, but in an emergency situation, this is enough food to get a family through the week. We homeschool, so my kiddos are home all day, and we eat 3 meals a day plus a snack at home. If your kids get free lunches at school, you will be able to stretch this food even more. Let's start with a complete list of every item we received. This haul has given us 6 very large potatoes, 4 yellow bell peppers, 2 heads of broccoli, 4 apples, 6 oranges, 2 carrots, 2 bags of pinto beans, each having 2 cups each, a can of pinto beans, 4 cans of tuna, dried plums, 3 cans of green beans, 2 bags of rice, canned peaches, canned corn, 3 pasta sauces, 8 packets of oatmeal, 2 pounds of spaghetti, 2 cans of chicken, 2 peanut butters, 2 jellies, 7 blueberry bagels, plus 2 whole chickens that were not pictured. I assume you have basic seasonings like salt and pepper in your pantry. You can add as many additional items to this menu plan, but I wanted to stick as closely as I could to only using these items. So the first thing that I would do is to put one of the whole chickens in the crock pot, season it as desired, and cook on low heat for 6 to 8 hours. Once it's done, you can pull off all the meat and separate it into small Ziploc bags or containers for the freezer. I would aim for at least 4 meals from this chicken. There is enough fresh and canned meat in this haul to have meat every day. Once the chicken is separated, put the carcass back in the crock pot and add any veggie scraps from the freezer or just use the chicken bones. Cover with water, add as much water as your crock pot allows, and cook overnight. In the morning, you can separate the broth into individual containers. I usually freeze it in 2-cup batches. And now that we have that out of the way, we can take a look at our menu plan. After much consideration, this is the menu plan for the week. I've decided we're going to do chicken and rice. We will have spaghetti twice. We can make some taco bowls. We'll do a potato skillet. We'll make a roasted chicken. I'll show you my idea for using up the tuna. And we should still have enough for a little bit of leftovers as well. Let's take a look. Up first is chicken and rice. Now this is one of my go-to meals that I make almost weekly because it is so quick and easy to throw together, especially when you're short on time. To my rice cooker, I'm going to add my rice, my shredded chicken, some of the chicken broth that we made in the crock pot, a half a head of broccoli, and then the seasonings of my choice. So this week I would just use salt and pepper, but if you have garlic powder, onion powder, parsley, I also like to add paprika. Whatever seasonings you like, feel free to add. Press start and your dinner will be ready in about 20 minutes. Next we have spaghetti, which we will be having for 2 nights. So I'm going to go ahead and cook up all my pasta and warm up all of the canned pasta sauce. And to that, I'm going to go ahead and add a cup or 2 of chicken so that we can have some protein as well. Once my pasta is cooked and drained, I'm going to go ahead and add my warmed up sauce and chicken and give it a good stir, making sure all my noodles are coated well. And then we will serve half tonight, and then I will save the other half for another night this week. Next, we're going to do some taco bowls. Now, this is one that if you have other ingredients to add to this, this would be a fantastic meal to add to. If you don't, it will be a little less exciting, but it is a perfectly fine meal if you're only going to be using rice and beans and chicken. So you should have some of your leftover chicken that we made in the crock pot. So you're going to want 1 to 2 cups of that. Next, you're going to cook all the pinto beans. So I went ahead and cooked all 4 cups of beans that I had. I use my Instapot. If you have one or you want to use the stove or your crock pot, however your favorite way to cook pinto beans is. I just cook them all at once to make it easier. And then you're also going to cook rice. I went ahead and cooked the 2 cups of rice. So you have options here with the rice. If you have any additional ingredients you can add to the rice, you can make it more like a Spanish rice or at least more of a Spanish flavored rice versus just plain rice. Do whatever works for you, what works for your budget, and whatever your family likes. Now we have the potato skillet. These potatoes were huge, so I'm only going to use 3 of them. We're going to go ahead and cube them up and also dice up one of the yellow bell peppers. And then we're going to need a cup or 2 of chicken as well. So you're going to want to heat up a bit of butter or oil if you have it available in your pantry in a skillet. And once it's hot, we're going to go ahead and add the bell peppers and the potatoes. And we're going to cook those and stir them often until we get a nice crust on them and until they are cooked through. And then once those are done, I would go ahead and add the chicken. You can go ahead and season the potatoes however you like. Obviously, salt and pepper works great, but if you have any additional seasonings you would like to use, feel free to use those. Because we had 2 whole chickens, I wanted to try to roast one of them for a meal. I thought that would be a great way to make a very filling and satisfying meal since we've been keeping it pretty slim for the week. So you're going to roast a chicken in the oven or crock pot as desired, your favorite way to cook a whole chicken. And then you can serve that with 1 head of broccoli, cooked as desired, and then the remaining pinto beans from earlier this week. That will give you a really good meal. One of the other items that we had from this food pantry haul is a can of peaches. Now, I haven't found a specific way to use those yet, but if you have a cake mix in your pantry or you have flour and sugar to make a cake mix, I would definitely make a simple peach cobbler for dessert to have with this meal. You can Google how to make that, and I think everybody will be quite happy. And finally, we have the tuna boats. So I'm calling them tuna boats because we are going to make our tuna salad as desired, and then we're going to cut bell pepper strips and eat the tuna on the bell pepper strips. I think that will add a lovely fresh flavor to our tuna. So I know that maybe not everybody likes their tuna salad with mayo, or that you just might need some new ideas on how to make tuna without mayo if you don't have mayo in your fridge. So I decided to ask ChatGPT, and I asked to come up with 5 tuna salad recipes with minimal ingredients and no mayo. And these are the recipes that I was given. I think that these will do just fine and should inspire you and give you some ideas to be able to find some ingredients in your pantry to make some tuna salad. Well, now that we have dinner for the week taken care of, let's go over some breakfast and lunch. So the breakfasts are going to be the oatmeal packets with prunes for the kiddos. And once we run out of those, we can then do bagels, and we can top those with the peanut butter and or jelly. Now, I'm going to be completely honest here. I will probably not be eating any breakfast myself, and will just be feeding breakfast to the kiddos. But on days that I am hungry or that I really do need to have a meal, I feel like there should be enough leftovers. I know when we make the chicken and rice in the crock pot, there will definitely be leftovers, so I can absolutely have some of that for breakfast. Now, lunches are a little bit trickier because, as I stated at the beginning, my kids are home all day, and I do make them lunch every day. So if your kiddos go to school and you can get free lunches, obviously this won't be much of a concern. But it is a little bit harder to stretch for lunches for everybody. We can always do leftovers, whatever we have. But if we want to do peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, obviously there's no bread here. Because we're using the bagels with breakfast, we're not really going to have that option for lunch. So my options here are to make some homemade bread if we have those ingredients. The other thing is another food pantry. There's lots of food pantries that allow you to pick up bread throughout the week. So if that is an option for you, I would highly recommend that. Otherwise, if you can scrounge up $1 to go buy the cheapest loaf of bread at your local grocery store, I think that would be the best plan of action. The other thing that I just realized we can add to the breakfast or lunch menu is those 3 extra potatoes we have. Remember, we had 6 potatoes. We only use 3 of them because they're so big. So we could also make some fried potatoes for breakfast. And if you have eggs, you can also do potatoes and eggs. That would also make a great lunch. Because I haven't made all these meals yet, it is hard to say exactly how many leftovers we'll have each day because you know kiddos, and some days they can eat a lot and some days they don't eat as much. So knowing my children and what we normally eat, I feel like we will still have a decent amount of leftovers at the end of every day so that we can eat some leftovers for lunch and I can have some leftovers for breakfast as needed. Thanks so much for watching to the end, and I really hope that this has inspired you to take a look at what you have on hand and or what you get from any food banks or food pantries and can turn it in to more meals and stretch it for your family as much as possible. What would you have done different? Are there any additional recipes you would have made instead? How would you have made this food pantry haul stretch even further? I would love to hear your thoughts and feedback, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.